Welcome to the webinar. We're about to get started. So first and most important, I'd like to formally thank you for joining us today. Our topic is all about Jira Service Management, or JSM, in 2025, the impact of AI, automation, and new integrations on ITSM. Some housekeeping items before we get started in the proper webinar and introducing our panelists. First, and probably most importantly, I know a lot of people ask this right at the start of any webinar. Of course, we are recording this. The recording will be distributed following the webinar. So if you want anybody who you work with, any of your coworkers, to watch the recording after we're done, or if you just want to go back and review some of the answers or questions our panelist shares, the recording will be distributed. In addition, questions will be answered at the end of the webinar, but please feel free to use the Q&A dialog in the Zoom settings in order to ask your questions at any time. If it makes sense, we'll answer it as we go through the chat functionality. If not, if it's a longer question or best answered by the panelists at the end, we'll answer it during a dedicated Q&A section. And then with that, I'd like to introduce our panelists. I'll start with myself as the moderator. My name is Andrew Bauman. I'm the Director of Enterprise Solutions here at Isos Technology. I've been in the Atlassian ecosystem for about 10 years, and that not only included all forms of Atlassian products, Jira, Confluence, etc., but a particular focus on Jira Service Management and ITSM and ITIL. Nick Nader, why don't you introduce yourself first, and then we'll go with Amanda second.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Nick Nader here. I'm a senior solution engineer on the pre-sales team at Isos Technology. I've been working at Isos Technology and in the Atlassian ecosystem in general for 6 years now, solutioning our services and the products for all of our clients, and help delivering value with the Atlassian ecosystem. Nice to meet everyone.
Thank you, Nick. And Amanda.
Hey, Amanda Bast here, the solutions architect from Atlassian. I work with solutions partners on implementations and adoption of JSM. I've spent about 10 years in the ITSM space, and 8 of those were prior to at Atlassian delivering ITSM solutions. So I'm super excited to be here. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you both for taking the time to join our webinar today. So our first topic to get started, as you in the audience, you have no surprise all about AI. I want to kind of have both our panelists discuss today the latest updates in AI, automation, and workflow efficiency, specifically in JSM. Nick, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the most popular in my mind AI-powered functionalities within JSM today is the virtual agent. It is meant to automate common requests, answer questions, point in the direction of FAQ and how-to articles within your IT knowledge base. So really, its core is about mitigating incoming requests. And that is a huge value add to any organization that handles all of those common IT asks manually from their agent's perspective, right? So it's really improving that self-service capability within that customer portal where you can configure and train your virtual agent to answer questions that your clients have all the time, or end users for that matter. Additionally, once the requests get into your IT help desk queue, so if that virtual agent can't answer it, if it's a little bit more difficult of a request from your end user, we have applied AI to ticket routing as well, so that when that ticket comes in, we can use AI-driven classification based off of that information that your end user has provided within that request form to ensure that that issue goes to the correct team or the correct member of the team or the correct queue and gets classified properly as potentially a high priority incident or a high severity incident for that matter. We also help resolve those incidents once they've gotten classified with things like automated analytics that give smart recommendations. Hey, this affected service that you opened up an incident against has an ongoing change happening, right? Or it has another ongoing incident that you should probably check out and resolve before attempting to resolve this current incident that was opened up against that affected service. So it's really about smart recommendations and speeding up resolution times of those incidents as they come in so that we can resolve them quicker and handle a larger volume of issues. That workflow that I talked about in terms of resolving that incident can also be fully automated to a pretty advanced degree utilizing AI-driven automation now. So new rules, new triggers have been added to the automation engine within Jira Service Management, really helping reduce that manual effort, kicking things out to external systems, gathering information from external systems, leveraging assets and configuration items within the asset part of the tool, all within that automation engine as well, which starts to tie everything together in a nice dependency map so that you have all of that available information and you can take automated actions on practically any of that information, leveraging kind of that enhanced workflow automation as well. And then finally, we want to be a little more predictive, right? We don't want to be entirely reactive to our incidents. We also want to help mitigate and prevent incidents or make changes against our systems before any incidents occur, right? And so we have proactive problem detection as well built into AI, leveraging kind of the analytics side of the tool to help identify some of those root causes and those common patterns and very frequent incidents that happen against our services so that we can prevent them before they even get identified by an end user or a customer as well.
Yeah. So I think with all of that said, one thing that I always think about is, how are we kind of changing the behavior of our company and our organization to be able to take advantage of these features that Nick was talking about? So I've seen a lot with customers who are coming from legacy tools that, our help seekers are still stuck in email. So like how can we change the behavior of our help seekers to be able to get them out of email and drive them to our customer portal to be able to take advantage of all these really great things that they can use in our portal. So really, there's two features for AI that I wanted to point out in that regard is for your technicians, being able to kind of triage all those tickets that come through email. You can use AI to bulk triage those tickets, and basically it will look at several tickets and make a recommendation of what the request type might be. So, as you're working on your organizational change management, giving your technicians the capabilities and the tools to make that a little bit easier for them and offload some of the work of triaging those tickets individually. Um, And then on the help seeker side, there is the virtual service agent for email that you'll be able to respond back to those customers who are sending emails with recommended knowledge articles to be able to say, hey, do you think this could possibly fix your issue? If not, yes or no, and it will submit a ticket from there. So just kind of giving them a glimpse at what is available in the portal and that there is a knowledge base that they might be able to self-help quicker than maybe an agent might get to them. So bulk triage and the virtual service agent for email will really help kind of drive that behavior to the portal to take advantage of all the other capabilities in the portal that they would have. And then the second piece being the Rovo triage agent. So again, just kind of what kind of features are there to be able to streamline and make your workflow more efficient. So Nick talked a lot about the great ways that you can make recommendations or speed up classification or priority. So that Rovo triage agent will actually be able to, within automation, make those adjustments to your tickets before they even get to an agent. So that will obviously speed up your service, be able to resolve those faster, get those tickets in the right hands of the right customers, because all of that suggestion is being baked into the ticket before it even gets to the agent. So those ones are probably my favorite ones to recommend when customers are trying to take advantage of JSM. And the first things they should do is those things right there.
Yeah, that point about bringing people, like leveraging the virtual agent within email to bring people into the customer portal is huge for a lot of customers that I talk to as well, because all of the AI functionality and automation functionality that we discussed is best leveraged within that customer portal, right? You get way more information out of your customers. You can point them in the direction of the virtual agent that then has access to the knowledge base over in the customer portal. You have smart search in the customer portal so that they can find those knowledge based articles. So that ushering of users and enabling them to get over into that customer portal is huge. And we've done some fun configurations around kind of the email replies, embedding variables and making it more personalized and saying, hey, over in the portal, you'll have access to, this nice traceability and visibility functionality that you wouldn't be able to see within an email thread if you're exclusively communicating through email.
Absolutely.
I think the virtual agent functionality in general is my favorite kind of trend over the last couple of months, last year or so. As you both know, and I'm sure a lot of our audience knows, virtual agent itself isn't a new functionality, but the historical version of virtual agent is you have to go in as the admin or the help desk lead and design those steps, right? If they say this, do this, like very manual, right? Intense in JSM, they're called. And now with AI, you get to take advantage of the knowledge base you've built and automatically have it suggest things to people. So it's not a huge manual setup in the background. Not only does that free up your time to maybe build intents on more complicated things, but also it helps you kind of realize value quicker because you can go live very quickly if you have a good knowledge base.
It's also something that you can embed into your chat tools, right? So if your end users are internal employees, they live in Microsoft Teams or Slack, that's an assist bot that we can embed straight into those tools so that they don't have to go anywhere. They don't have to use the email inbox, and they don't even have to be in the portal because they can communicate straight through that chatbot as well.
Absolutely. Okay. Before we get on to topic number 2, we're going to do our first poll today. So for those of you who haven't been on Zoom, a poll's about to pop up and ask you a quick question. You just answer one of the selections, and as you can see, it just popped up as I'm speaking. So question number 1 is real straightforward. What ITSM platform does your organization currently use? Obviously, you're here to hear about JSM or Jira Service Management today, but maybe you're using ServiceNow or Zendesk or another platform like BMC Remedy. So just we'll keep the poll up for another 20 or 30 seconds or so. Again, real straightforward question. Just looking to understand, those of you in the audience, are you using JSM today and looking to learn more about it? Or are you maybe using something else and looking to learn more about a competing solution? Okay, we'll lock in that poll in 5. Okay, now let's see the results. And no surprise from this that most of the people here are attending the webinar today, then using JSM, obviously some ServiceNow usage, some Zendesk usage, and a pretty large percentage of other. Nick, Amanda, no surprise, I guess, that most people here are using JSM, looking to learn more about JSM, huh?
Not a surprise.
Okay. All right, now let's get on to topic number 2. So we're going to do a deeper dive on the trends part of the webinar today. And so topic number 2 is the landscape of JSM in 2025 and some emerging trends. Nick, let's start with you again. What do you think in terms of trends?
Well, as our last topic talked about, of course, AI and automation is that highest, most popular emerging trend within the ecosystem. More and more teams are using AI-driven automation, virtual agents, predictive analytics, pretty much everything we discussed in the previous topic to speed up delivery and reduce that manual work and make sure that their employees can focus on more important things rather than kind of those consistent tasks that come in regularly. So AI is definitely taking center stage in terms of like ITSM best practice and emerging trends within the cloud. For sure, but it's not the only thing, and it's also enabling this other trend I want to talk about, which is ITSM becoming more and more proactive and not just being about speeding up time to service delivery or reducing time to resolution on incidents or speeding up change management implementation times. It is being extremely proactive because of data analytics and because of those aggregate of predictive analytics that allow us to prevent those issues before they happen and identify root causes before an incident gets reported through our help desk. So that is a huge trend that we've seen amongst our customers is how do we mitigate as much of this as possible? We're drowning within our incident resolution. So that's a huge focus for a lot of the teams. We've been focusing on IT teams a lot, though, and the next trend I want to call out is aside from IT teams, which is that business teams are using JSM more and more within our clients' organizations. So it's not just an IT tool anymore. We are seeing departments from HR to facilities to finance, all as part of that service management machine because they like to handle things like employee HR requests and payroll requests, things like onboarding and offboarding the employees involves way more than just the IT department provisioning hardware and software. It involves the HR department's forms. It involves, finance getting you into the CRM or the employee management system, and a lot of other departments touching that workflow and being a part of that workflow. So we're bringing a lot of those business teams in there as well. And this actually leads me into my next trend, which is for those non-IT teams that don't have development experience, maybe don't have an engineer on staff, we're seeing a huge focus on low code and no code automation, making their lives easier as well, right? So this is going to be a huge aspect of building out those multi-department, multi-team workflows through the automation engine with Atlassian's built-in, essentially plug-and-play components in that automation, right? You can grab things like triggers and conditions and actions that are all built in that take no coding experience. You kind of just find the trigger you want. When change issue is created, then route it to the appropriate approver group or whatever that may be, right? Or when onboarding comes in, generate these 5 subtasks that we always do during our onboarding process and assign them to the appropriate teams, including HR and finance and the other members of that workflow. So we're seeing a lot of that become a lot easier for non-administrators and non-IT experienced configurers to create within the JSM engine. And then finally, just to bring it back around to AI, a huge trend that AI is also focused on is self-service, right? So making AI-powered knowledge bases and chatbots the center piece of and the first line of defense of their customer portal, right? That mitigates a lot of those FAQ questions, all those how-to questions. Hey, my VPN's not working, I can't connect to it. All that stuff can be handled through that AI-powered virtual agent and knowledge base and any chatbots that we embed into Teams and Slack.
Yeah, love it. I think, I wanted to double tap on like the broader team groups. So business teams, non-IT teams, technical teams, just kind of bringing everyone into the same platform here, being able to have integrations and connections over to your DevOps, over to your agile practices, is all really with the like thought process, right? Of tackling low productivity and being able to align everybody's work to like the common goal and being able to see that work and how that does fold up to the organizational goals that you're having. So just being able to get all your teams on the same page and marching towards the same goals. You're going to have your teams more focused on the right things, more high value work. Now with that, of course, that's where the automation and AI comes in, making a better experience and, giving your agents more ability to plan and track that work and using AI to generate content, be able to pre-populate knowledge articles or make recommendations, you're all kind of centering around this ability to make a better experience for your agents and for your help seekers. So then ultimately, like they're just going to be more engaged and more faster time to get things done. Your knowledge base is going to grow quicker. You're going to be able to have more self-help quicker. Like everything is just with the spirit of like improving productivity, improving efficiency, getting a faster time to value. And then just that like broader team perspective of bringing everybody on the Atlassian platform here, just taking advantage of that full system of work, and having all your business teams, all your tech teams, you're just going to continue to get return after return on your investment with very little, like Vic was saying, with very little effort in terms of like low code, no code capability to be able to expand and grow and get those teams what they need. So like just from all the non-tangible things, just lots of value to be had and lots of return on your investment time and time again.
Yeah, and just to expand on that investment piece, we're seeing a lot of customers double down on like cloud as well in terms of deployment options, right? Whether that's Atlassian or other tools within their IT stack, they are all making sure that they're in the cloud to reduce that investment in infrastructure costs. When upgrades come out, having to spend engineering time upgrading their own products, having to manually scale their servers that they run their products on. That is all gone if you use SaaS cloud products, giving you the ability to scale up and down whenever you want in terms of size of your instance and environment, and making sure that you have all of that cloud first functionality and AI functionality that we're talking about is all going to be pretty exclusive to the cloud as well until they bring it down into data center, if they ever do, right? So a lot of that focus is on consolidating around cloud deployment as well.
Absolutely. And I just feel like like the scalability piece. I feel like when you're making like the day-to-day easier, it like just unlocks this like creativity, this like optimization. It's like just your day-to-day tasks become so much more bearable and visible that like
100%.
you're just able to like level up what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. I love that.
Get out of the weeds.
Hmm.
Two of my favorite things you both just talked about in that one, both near and dear to my heart because I'm an ITSM nerd, but the, onboarding additional teams, right? We call that Omni Center or Omni Channel type, or excuse me, Omni Center type support, where where you have a true employee center where someone could come in and make a request of HR or facilities or IT all within the same platform. We're so far from that old school mentality of you have 17 different systems, you get HR from email, IT over self-service. So making sure all the teams are centralized just makes it easier for your business and your knowledge workers to get their requests done. And then even I would say more advanced or high level stuff, Nick, you mentioned this as well, is the being proactive and not reactive. In IT, we've talked about that for a really long time, about being able to diagnose and detect issues before they happen. But when you go behind the curtain, historically, that was really around servers and infrastructure, trying to tell, like, hey, you're about to run out of RAM on a server and it's going to
Hmm.
crash, right?
Monitoring tools like SolarWinds and Datadog, trying to figure it out. Yep.
Exactly. But now today with AI in your service, tool, in your IT tool, it can detect trends amongst your incidents that your people are reporting. Hey, I'm noticing you're having an issue with a specific type of Dell laptop. This has happened 3 or 4 more times. That kind of
Yep.
functionality has never been more easily accessible to IT teams, right? Whereas before it really wasn't super easy to set up, right? Or it was complicated. Now AI is so easy to integrate that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's historically you've had a lot of that data analytics on the monitoring tool side where it's like, hey, this is what the hardware is telling us, this is what the software is telling us, but now we're aggregating user data and this is what the users are telling us and this is what the trends amongst user inputted data looks like for your IT team.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
agree. It's like I feel like we're just pivoting from like more systematic kind of proactive work to like more people. Like, is it working? Like, I keep thinking about like knowledge articles, and it's like, is the knowledge article that you even put out there just for someone to help self-help even working? Like, or do you continue to have tickets submitted for those things that need an agent? And you're like, wait, I have a self-help article. And like now with the AI insights, it's like, okay, people are looking at it. It's obviously not working. Like,
And then you can use AI to rewrite it so that it actually works, right? Because
there you go.
the large language models at their core are best with dealing with language. So some of the things that we haven't talked about here is how easily you can leverage Atlassian intelligence for things like automated replies to end users that submit requests, automatic summaries of an incident or a change, so that when you're a change approver, hey, I don't want to read the entirety of all of our change plans within the ticket. Give me that executive summary of what this change looks like, and then I'll determine and confirm or validate our assigned change risk or something like that, right? So it's really, really powerful with summarizing language, content creation. So it's huge within the knowledge base and Confluence as well when it comes to writing and rewriting that content.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Before we get on to our next topic, some minor housekeeping item. We are about 5 minutes to the 30-minute mark, which means we are doing great on time from the panelists section here, which also means we're going to have a lot of time at the end for Q&A. So I encourage you, if you have a question right now that is top of mind for Amanda or Nick, pop that in the Q&A. We will have plenty of time at the end to answer those questions. And now with that being said, let's move on to our next topic, which again, I'm going to make this same AI joke. No surprise, we are going to double, if not triple now, click into AI again. And I want to talk specifically about how AI and automation, of course, streamline service management process in particular. Nick, why don't you take us away first again?
Yeah, this is a great opportunity to talk about some of the more specific use cases that we've seen AI applied to within some of our clients' IT teams. So taking over repetitive tasks is by far the easiest and most common way that people apply AI to their processes. Things like password resets, triaging tickets, or giving that bulk functionality that Amanda was talking about before to triage tickets in bulk. Handling common requests automatically through routing to knowledge base articles, even some more advanced things like the change risk calculation that I was talking about briefly before. We've seen, like I've worked with multiple of our clients to create some automatic risk calculation for their changes by summarizing all of that content and then utilizing AI to apply a low, medium, high, very high risk categorization to those changes so that when the change approval board comes in and evaluates that risk, they can see that and validate what that automatic risk was with all of the context coming from your CMDB and the affected service and the affected hardware. I'm sure Andrew is also super familiar with that kind of change risk automation, working with some of our biggest clients in the finance industry. That's a huge factor for their processes as well. We're also seeing things like smart routing, so getting tickets to the right team so that triaging can be extremely pertinent when we get to a little bit more complex workflows. So those multi-department, multi-team, omni-channel workflows that Andrew was talking about previously, like onboarding processes, offboarding processes, or even sometimes change management processes that take multiple departments to handle. Things like the developers coming in and actually implementing the change. They don't live in JSM, but what we do is we create automation and AI to make sure that they have linked tickets over within the respective Jira software project, or subtasks assigned to the respective team or team member, so that when they get to that part of the workflow within your change management process or your onboarding process, that those tickets are already created and assigned and have the context that are necessary for those members to take those actions as part of that process. So it's really focused on taking away all of that manual repetitive work that your agents would have to handle before, and pulling them out of that firefighting so that they can focus on more high level strategy things, so that they can look at big picture improvements to your process, right? We want to pull those humans out and let them make more human decisions and think big and create fun and cool things for their team rather than getting drowned and burning out handling support tickets endlessly within your queues, right? So a lot of that AI is driven towards a future where those IT support members aren't handling the day-to-day every common request that comes into the IT support, but are getting to do those more high-level strategic decision-making things that are more fun and a little more I guess not as repetitive and consistent.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think from my perspective, streamlining service management processes, I really want to touch back on, the agent capability. So the Rovo triage agent. I think I barely touched on it earlier, but the same concept is, that agentic AI is able to take all of the stuff we're talking about in terms of, making a recommendation for priority based on similar incidents, or make a recommendation for request types. Like the Rovo agent will be able to just like automatically apply that. Like that's just a step that you're taking out of the process. They will just automatically go look at your Atlassian stack and say, hey, what could this possibly be classified as, or what is a more appropriate priority based on tickets that have been submitted very similarly. And we're just proactively doing that already, and the agent will make the adjustment. If the recommendation is different than what the ticket actually is, then it will make that update for you, and it will even log in a comment that the ticket was updated and here's what was changed. So again, just streamlining and being able to apply that logic already beforehand is great. And then in terms of I think we touched on it also multiple times in the knowledge base, just that generative AI concept, automating your post-incident reviews and being able to kind of pre-populate those with what, AI would recommend that you should start out as based on information from the ticket. There's within Jira too, there's a piece of generating release notes based on what you're kind of putting through into that release. I think there's connectors with Loom to be able to automatically, write meeting notes in Confluence as well. So like just being able to use that generative AI capability to build out your knowledge base and just kind of make information available. Unlocking knowledge, just broadly speaking, is like the biggest value add, I think, because that is what is going to drive the AI capability in the virtual agent, wherever that might be. So it's the portal, Slack, Teams, whatever tool you're using to pull the virtual agent in, like having a good knowledge base and a robust knowledge base is going to be your number one way of deflecting tickets away from your agent. So all of that is dependent on a knowledge base. So using generative AI to feed that knowledge base is going to save you a lot of time. I mean, I do it all the time of like, hey, where should I start? Use the prompts within Atlassian Intelligence in that Confluence in your knowledge base to say, here's the document I want to create, or here's what I need. It's a customer facing document. You can include all of that kind of detail in the prompts that you're providing to the Atlassian Intelligence to say, I want to make sure that it's written customer friendly. Like, we're tech people, we get stuck in writing documentation the way that we see it best, but is it customer friendly? Is it using language that is able to be read and understood by anyone? So just using the generative AI to be able to make those types of things easier is just going to have exponential value to drive all of that whole flow of knowledge article to being available in the portal to self-help, deflecting, taking that load off of your agents so they can focus on more high value work. Like, it's all dependent on your knowledge base.
Absolutely. I have to call back to Nick's change management comment as well. Nick knows how much I love that side of ITSM, especially having a lot of experience with financial institutions and more of high risk, even in the medical side too, about really doing proper change risk calculations. How important it is when you're upgrading a server, if it's not only dependent, again, with the hospital example, it's something that doctors or nurses use with patients, but then also on the finance example, how important it is if you got traders utilizing something, right? So doing good change management, good change risk calculation is really important. And also getting easier because of things like AI doing things automatically for you, right? All right. Let's go on to our next topic, which is just a little bit of information sharing on my side. So we always like to include in these webinars as much data as we can. And we got very lucky because Atlassian and Forrester did a study on this, that basically calculating the total economic impact of implementing JSM and using the new AI and automation functionalities. Study was done last year. I'm going to highlight 3 different examples of what we thought was really impactful, really interesting, just in terms of savings or ticket deflection rates, spoiling it a little bit. But we'll also include the study, obviously, in our follow-up material, so you'll be able to see where in the study the exact information Forrester asked, and you can actually see the data Forrester gathered too, so you can see the behind the scenes aspect of it as part of the study. But with that being said, let me jump right into the 3 stats I wanted to share. And I already spoiled the first one, but Forrester saw that within 3 years, after 3 years of implementing JSM, ticket deflection rates reached up to 30%, and also ticket handling efficiency improved by 30%. Again, those are combining a couple of the functionalities and features Nick and Amanda both talked about with AI and automation, reducing ticket resolution times by streamlining your workflows, using AI generated articles and things of that nature. That ticket deflection is also really important because every time you deflect a ticket and someone can self-serve and resolve on their own, you're giving time back to IT. The next stat I'd like to share is around lower operational costs. Because JSM is easier to use and employees can self-service, Forrester found that on average, an employee saved 25 minutes of time per request. Again, we talked about this throughout the webinar today, but just because you're able to do self-service, do knowledge base surfacing and sharing with an employee, but also you're meeting them where they are with something like Slack or virtual agent and Slack or Teams, you're able to save them time. And so again, that's not only giving you, an IT worker, time back, but it's also giving them time back because they're getting their tickets resolved quicker. And then finally, on the productivity, speaking of IT users, Forrester found that over 3 years, that on average, the efficiencies was valued by a company at $362,000. So in the Forrester study itself, it talks a lot about, this buyback principle, the ROI principle, right? Where if you're implementing JSM, you're spending money on implementing it. When do you actually get your money back? And so a stat like that, you're almost instantaneously gaining it back just from the one stat alone, let alone all the other efficiencies and all other gains you're having. And then with that, we'll jump right into the second poll for today. Same thing as last time, the poll will pop up. And the question this time is, which of these trends will have the biggest impact on your ITSM strategy in 2025? So 5 choices: AI-driven automation and virtual agents, assets and IT operations, expanding ITSM beyond IT, so HR, finance, facilities, etc., no code, low code workflow automation, and smarter self-service and knowledge management. Again, same thing. We'll drop the poll in a couple of seconds, but please submit your answer, and then we'll ask the panelists for their thoughts. All right, let's lock the poll in, see what the results are. No surprise, I think. AI, and actually surprising for me that AI barely eked out a win there, with smarter self-service and assets coming in tied for second place at 7 or 28% of the results, and then AI driven at 32%. Nick, Amanda, what do we think?
I don't think it's hugely surprising that assets and IT operations is neck and neck with the AI one, as well as the self-service, because those are huge value adds for a lot of our clients as well, right? Like assets and IT operations is still just kind of in its final merging form of Jira Service Management as an enterprise solution. So assets is becoming way more valuable with things like the data manager functionality that's in beta today. They got Opsgenie's functionality fully into JSM with operations teams. And so our clients and teams are still kind of building out that operations arm within Jira Service Management. So a lot of that is still a huge value add. And then self-service is enabled by AI, but just building out a nice knowledge base with the proper labeling and tagging of knowledge base articles, with internal and external documentation becoming available to end users in that customer portal. Like those are big value adds alongside AI kind of enabling both of those to be more efficient.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me either. I think understanding that like improving and making your customer experience way better is like the root of that issue, and making that better really is that it's restoring service quicker through your monitoring tools. It's improving your knowledge base so that your self-help capabilities are better for your end customers. So I think I'm not surprised to see that like we're not just looking at it as, oh, I want to improve the customer like from the front end. We got to make our portal better. No, they're seeing it as like there are layers behind that drive a better customer experience by using your operations capability, by improving your knowledge base with generative AI. So like I love to see actually that we're not just looking at it from the surface, that we're seeing what those root causes actually are.
I will say it did surprise me to see that no code, low code automations was bottom. I wonder if that's because, again, speaking in IT, low code automation is more time savings for maybe those in those other departments of like HR, facilities, who maybe don't have the tech background. But I also think the low code side, people haven't played around with it enough. Maybe they don't know how much of an ROI you could have by some of those features, right? Okay, on that note, let's get into our final section, which is our final words of wisdom from our panelists today. I'll start with mine. And this is often something I talk to a lot of my clients about. We've hinted at the topic here and there, but in general, what I often talk about with our clients, especially in service management, is around how the B2C world has really shaped the IT world's ability to service our customers, right? You often don't realize how impactful places like Amazon or Apple have been to the customer experience, right? You're used to, and prevalently people are used to in their free time, going to an Amazon or going to Apple or even Delta. They can text for support, or they can use Twitter for support, email, phone call, right? This kind of omni-channel type interaction, because you're used to that in your free time. When you get to work, you're often expecting the same kind of service, right? You're often expecting, hey, IT or any sort of service agency or agent or department should meet me where I am. And so that B2C world kind of influencing the B2B world is one topic that we've been monitoring for years now, about how our IT organizations especially have to be careful of that impact, right? Amanda, why don't we go with your final words of wisdom next?
Oh, my final words of wisdom will usually always be around that organizational change management. Where we've talked a lot about features, we've talked a lot about however many ways you can, slice and dice AI to get value. But I think, just making sure that, what you have decided to focus on is implemented well and is adopted well. There's so much out there that you can use. There's so much even just within JSM, and that's just JSM. There's so much more in Jira and Confluence and, agent capability. But it's like, what are we implementing? What are we focusing our efforts on? And where are our goals? And making sure that the features we are like surfacing as most important to drive adoption are aligned to making your goals happen. So just, kind of making sure that what you're doing is meaningful and valuable. Otherwise, it can get lost, and it can be like, okay, there's so many AI features. I don't know which ones I should really focus on first. And then you're probably not going to have anyone, because it's just like boiling the ocean. And then again, I'll always stand on the soapbox of saying, get your help seekers to the portal. How are you driving them to the portal? Because that's where they're going to unlock all the other capabilities. If we're still stuck in emails, then we're only at the surface of value here.
Yeah, I kind of want to steal Amanda's final notes. The OCM part, like actually having a process that follows the tooling implementation and configuration, is like it's unmatched. So you can configure a tool perfectly to fit your process, but if the users don't know how to use it, it's not going to be very valuable for the team. So that's an awesome final thought. Mine is something that was kind of summarized within Atlassian's Team 24 speaker panel when they were talking about AI applied to business and industry in general. They were speaking about a lot about how the first companies to like appropriately apply AI to their business processes within their industry are going to be the top players within their industry within 5 years, right? It's going to be that big of a game changer for a lot of our clients, and applying it to your Atlassian tools is a good first step to applying it to the rest of your business, right? Because you track all of your work within Jira. You handle all of your incidents and issues within Jira Service Management. So it's going to be a big value add to start to get AI integrated and start to train it, right? Because as you train AI to become better and better as a virtual agent, as a chatbot, understanding your data and your processes, the better it's going to be able to execute and deliver value to your end users, and be able to take away those medial tasks that we talked about, so that your employees can focus on more fun stuff.
Awesome final words of wisdom. Okay, before we get to Q&A, just one final note, and this is just more about continued education. If you want to learn more, Isos, we are always available for JSM demonstrations and walkthroughs, so please visit our website to book that meeting. For those of you who already are using JSM, which is most of you, if you want to see a particular functionality deep dived, we are absolutely available to do that too. If you just want to focus on AI, or just want to focus on the low code, no code automation, you probably don't, because nobody selected that one. Feel free to submit it for anything. We're happy to take the time to demonstrate something. There's a comment section too. You can plug in the comments what exactly you want to see. You can even say, I want Nick Nader specifically, and Nick will jump on with you and demo whatever you want. Okay, now let's get to the Q&A section. So our first question, Amanda, this is for you, from an anonymous attendee. Are these AI-related functionalities only available in Jira Cloud, or are some available in Jira Data Center?
For right now, those are available in Jira Cloud.
Awesome, thank you. And so, Nick, you or I can take this one. You let me know. The next question here. How do you see the difference between JSM, Freshservice, ServiceNow, and Zendesk?
That's a beast of a question for sure.
Eh,
I'll start with my opinion about ServiceNow and JSM. Like, I think ServiceNow is the enterprise, the traditional, historically best enterprise service management tool within the industry, and it's always been holistic and all inclusive. And JSM is now at the place where it is directly competing with all of that functionality within ServiceNow, and it's doing it at a lower cost with way more a la carte selectability in terms of which models you're using, which integrations you need. The marketplace app model within Atlassian makes it a lot easier for you to pick one or two third-party marketplace apps to fill those functionality gaps that your team actually needs, instead of something at ServiceNow where you're buying, 150 integrations that you're only going to use a handful of. So I think it's pretty comparable in terms of ServiceNow's functionality. I think that Jira and Atlassian in general has always had a more usable user interface, a cleaner user interface. Like, we've seen a lot of focus around navigability and usability within not just the customer side of the portal, but the internal side to find your work and find things you've recently worked on and find things that you're favoriting. So it's got a lot within the tool now, especially if you have more than one Jira product. So we've found that it's a lot easier to navigate and a lot more usable than some of these older, help desk solutions that have been around for a long time that haven't made those, clean UI updates to their products and platforms quite yet. Freshservice and Zendesk, I put kind of in the same bucket. I'm most familiar with migrating away from them, to be honest, because that is the conversations that we have with our clients is, hey, we want to get off of Freshservice or Zendesk or ServiceNow. Our renewal is coming up. What would it look like to get our data out of there and into Jira Service Management? So that is a lot of our conversations around it, a lot of feature comparisons that we can share in document format, because there's a lot of information to consume there. But yeah, we're definitely happy to have a conversation around any other third-party help desk solution and platform, whether that's integrating with it because you want to keep it around and you still want to leverage it, or if that's migrating away from it and doing a transformation. A lot of the times our clients are like, hey, our process also is kind of not great and, organically grown over time. So let's talk about process improvements as we talk about data migration away from these other platforms as well.
Great answer, Nick. And I'll echo that, beast of a question. If anyone wants a more in-depth evaluation of one product versus another, we do that all the time. So we're happy to compare
Absolutely.
features or just go through use cases as well. So let's go on to our next question here. How do AI insights help IT teams prioritize and resolve issues more effectively?
Should I take that one? It's a great question. AI insights is something that can give you information that isn't readily available within your environment, right? The whole point of large language models being applied to something like an IT help desk is to aggregate disparate data and information across your entire environment and boil it down into something consumable that you can then leverage to make a decision about resolving a potential root cause before it even becomes an incident, right? So I think that the insights, especially around like Atlassian analytics and what Rovo comes up with when you ask them questions, or what they come up with when you ask them to summarize different various issues within your environment, is what is going to enable humans to make those human decisions a lot better and start to head off some of those very common incidents that are going to occur when the AI can analyze all of that dependency mapping that you have in your asset management tool and CMDB, and can analyze all of your historical incidents and changes that you've made on the systems. Hey, we've had a lot of deployments within our Bitbucket source code repository over the past couple of weeks. We expect a couple of incidents to happen because you touched this source code, right? Like, things like that are going to start to become possible, as we apply AI across the entire Atlassian stack.
Thank you, Nick. Amanda, I'm going to tag you for this next question. Will AI be able to suggest the most appropriate playbook for a ticket outside of the configured conditions for when it should be visible?
Oh, jeez, let me read that. So the robo agent, the service request agent, and then on the issue view suggestions, like they're going to be able to make it a suggestion about like if there's a knowledge article or something that should be suggested. Um, so I think maybe if I'm understanding this fully, like there's a couple ways that AI will be able to make a suggestion based on what is happening in the ticket outside of the conditions for when it should be visible. I think if I'm understanding that, and if whoever posted this, if you have more specific info, like just share that and we can address more broadly.
Yeah, it's an interesting use case that I've seen. Like, so they have custom Rovo agents, right? And if you combine instructions within that custom Rovo agent prompt with internal documentation around process for like a playbook for resolving a ticket, they start to understand, hey, when this kind of ticket based off of this information within the request comes in, we comment internally with this playbook and this documentation for the agent to follow for resolution. We've done that with the automation engine that has a little more structured conditional rules around what should be like what playbook should be used for what type of ticket. But applying a Rovo custom agent and training it to look across your documentation to then decide which playbook makes the most sense for an appropriate ticket is definitely something that I would see within the realm of possibility. It's just going to take a little bit of like prompt engineering and training on that Rovo agent.
Okay, next question, slightly similar, a little bit different. How far-reaching is Atlassian Intelligence slash Rovo? Could it read content in attachments and Jira issues? Could it read content from enterprise apps external to my Atlassian instance, or would a plugin be needed for that?
So I don't believe that it can read attachment data depending on the attachment type. Like PDFs are extremely difficult. It's something that we can definitely dig into and see if it's on the roadmap for Rovo. So attachment data may be off the table right now, but Rovo does have active connectors for things like Google Drive, SharePoint, Slack, GitHub. I mean, there's a huge list of it that we can share within the chat here. So it can consume content from external apps that are on their connector list for now. And then additionally, my hope is that Atlassian opens up the API for Rovo so that we can start to create custom connections through things like a Forge app or some kind of custom integration through that API. Oh, I might have pushed that question away, but I posted a link on your question for the Rovo connectors.
You sent it, so I see it
All right,
there.
cool.
Okay, next question. Who do you primarily migrate users off of? Freshservice, ServiceNow, or Zendesk?
ServiceNow is probably the number one. We still do a lot of Zendesk. Freshservice I would put in third, but ServiceNow by far is our most common request to move away from, and it's usually due to costs.
Amanda, I saw you shaking your head there. You're in agreement.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think like when you say cost, Nick, I'm sure we all mean like, it's more than just like the bill, if you will. Like it's the cost of change, it's the cost of, downtime for upgrades, it's the cost of getting something added to your project or your workflow that you want. Like it's so
Yep,
it like
yep.
there's obviously a cost, associated, but it's just that like team productivity cost, it's not being able to scale cost, it's so much more broad in terms of the value that
For
we're giving.
sure.
But yeah, that is like top migration effort, if you will, is from ServiceNow for sure. That's most of the conversations.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity cost, right? Like it's not just the licensing model that we
Yeah.
compare. The opportunity cost that's lost when you stick with ServiceNow and try to keep configuring it and customizing it to fit your needs. A lot of our clients decide that the investment to switch over to Jira Service Management is worth it in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
So we can answer about two more questions here. So everyone get your questions in. Obviously, anything we don't answer, we will follow up with you after the webinar. But second to last question, have you seen a difference in size of customers that are adopting JSM? I'm certainly going to say no. We've had customers of all sizes adopt the platform. And I see Nick and Amanda, you're both shaking your head. You're both in agreement with that one.
Unless you mean like have we seen like a growth in the size of customers that are kind of adopting JSM now more than ever? I would agree with that. You know, I think now more than ever, we're having larger organizations, bigger IT teams, bigger, you know, companies that are wanting to adopt JSM. You know, it really is a competitive, you know, between ServiceNow and us. It's like, it's not just for small teams anymore. It's that whole value across the organization. It's the platform play that's really winning. And that is bringing large customers, large enterprises to us.
Yeah, it ranges from individual consultants with 10 employees to 20,000 agents within an enterprise. It's a massive range for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, last question. Does Jira Intelligence and JSM integrate with knowledge-based platforms other than Confluence?
The short answer is yes. JSM definitely integrates with things like SharePoint and other external knowledge-based tools, document repositories. Jira Intelligence, now that Rovo is part of the stack, that Rovo connectors link that I shared for the other question is going to be that same resource for finding out which ones it connects to in terms of external document repositories as well. So SharePoint is on there, Google Drive is on there, and then a handful of other ones that are pretty popular.
Yeah, just pulling in that third-party data, that's always going to be done through Rovo. So I think there's, you know, it's a great question, and I think it's worth calling out that, like, you know, there's an assumption in the kind of way we're talking about things is that your knowledge base solely lives in Confluence, and that, you know, you guys as customers, that's just not the reality of it. You have SharePoint, you have legacy systems, so that's where the Rovo piece comes into play. Like Nick said, is being able to pull that third-party data in and include that in suggestions. We talked about playbooks, including what might be living in SharePoint as the most often referenced for fulfilling that. You're not limited to just what's in Confluence today. So that's exactly where the Rovo piece comes in.
And with that, we are almost at time, and I'll end it here and give people a minute or two back. But first and most importantly, Amanda and Nick, thank you both for the time today. For the audience, thank you for your time today. We always appreciate getting a chance to speak with good panelists like this for an hour and have all of you participants here for an hour learning with us and listening to different aspects of our, you know, our journey or things we've learned with other clients. Feel free to reach out, right? We've provided some resources for that. You've got our email there at the bottom. And again, thank you all for your time.